Yes, and you will be defending that next weekend, an event that is actually unprecedented as far as World Wrestling Entertainment is concerned. 2 nights. Never before WrestleMania has been 2 nights, April 4th and April 5th, and you're going up against someone I know very well, Shayna Baszler. I've been covering Shayna Baszler as far as her MMA career goes for many, many years. First, let me ask you, the last few weeks for WWE have been interesting, of course. You're one of the few shows that are still going on, and you're doing your events in an empty performance center in Orlando. As a performer, as an athlete, what has that been like for you to be amongst no fans?
Yeah, so look, I came from the independent circuit, so I'm used to wrestling in front of nobody. I remember in somewhere in Kilkenny back in Ireland wrestling in front of 7 people, and I almost think that that might be worse because you can hear everything that they're saying. So there's nobody there. You can that you might hear some disrespectful comments from time to time. But I'm somebody who has fed off the energy of the crowd so much, and it's been my connection with the crowd that's gotten me to where I am, and I know that without those people I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So it's a different shift in your brain. Like you have to use a different part of you, because you know that at the other end of it there's millions of people watching, so you have to connect to them differently. And you're not going to get that same gratification that you get when you're going out there in front of an audience and they're letting you know how well you're doing or how well you're not doing, but they're responding to you constantly. So it's a little bit, there's less self-gratification but more concentration on the nuances and of what your message is. Why do I want people to care about why I'm going to mess Shayna Baszler up so much? And why do I want people to care about why I'm going to beat her? So that's something that you have to shift, and you have to be zeroed in, knowing that those people are back home watching, and that they need more entertainment, and that they need a little bit of a distraction for a few hours or a few minutes, whatever it is.
I would imagine that when you're actually wrestling, you probably forget a little bit about the fact that they're known there. When you're on the microphone and you're addressing, there you're not getting the gratification. Is it more challenging when you're on the mic and you're interacting with others as opposed to when you're actually competing in the matches right now?
So I haven't wrestled on Raw since, so my first match is going to be at WrestleMania in front of nobody. So I feel like it might actually be harder to wrestle in front of nobody than to talk in front of nobody, because I'm a talker, you know, and I'm telling my message, and I'm telling my story, and I'm saying all the reasons that I don't like her, and that's a little rant that I can go on a rant all I like about the reasons that I want to beat Shayna Baszler, and I can do that in a vacuum. I don't necessarily need people there. If they're there, then that's wonderful and I love it, especially if they let me know that I'm doing all right. But when they're not there, I still know that they're listening, and that they need to hear the story, and they need all those little nuances. They need to see them. I think wrestling's going to be a different kettle of fish because it's a different adrenaline, right? Like I worry that it could feel like you're going out there sparring. You know what I mean? Like when people go out there and they spar, but instead they have to put on a fight. I don't think I'm going to feel like that, because I think this means so much to me. Defeating Shayna Baszler, I know a lot of people don't think that I can. I know she doesn't think that I can. I'm not underestimating her, but I know she's underestimating me. And to hold this for a year, and for WrestleMania to have been so different last year than it is this year, it will be a huge victory for me to walk out still Raw Women's Champion.
Now, like I said, this is happening on 2 separate nights, April 4th and April 5th. Never been done before. Could you tell us, are you allowed to tell us which night your match will be airing on?
I'm pretty certain that it is on the first night. That it's on Saturday. I believe that it's on the Saturday.
Okay. Just less than 2 weeks ago, when this all really started, you were at the Performance Center with Stone Cold Steve Austin on 316 Day. And, you kind of, have that moment where you get to, do the beer thing with him and all that. When you have those moments, and maybe it's all kind of old hat for you, but I'm wondering, because you grew up a fan and you had these big dreams, and we spoke about your struggles and all that. do you have a moment there, like when you're talking to yourself and you're like, this is me and Stone Cold, like arguably one of the biggest names in the history of this business, and we're doing the beer thing. Like, I'm the one who's chosen to be there with him and do this. Do you ever have those out-of-body experiences where you're like, wow, look how far I've come?
All the time, all the time. I don't think it's ever lost on me. Just the interactions I've gotten to have, and the things that I've gotten to do, and the people that I get to do them with. It's so sometimes you're always going. You don't get to sit back and think, okay, I came from wrestling in front of 7 people. Now I've main evented in front of 90,000 people, because the next day we have to film Raw, right? I remember having main evented WrestleMania. I got back to my room at 3 and I was up at 5 to go do media, and
Wow.
then on to Raw straight on to Raw the next day. So that it never really I never really absorbed how I was feeling about all of it. But now I have to stop, right? Like, it all has to stop. And you get to sit there and be by yourself and think about the things that that you wanted when you were younger, the things that you dreamed about, the things that have now happened, and things that you didn't even think would be possible have happened. And that's really humbling, and makes you feel real grateful.
As you mentioned, almost exactly 1 year ago, you were at MetLife Stadium headlining the granddaddy of them all. You close the show, you win the belt, and what a great moment. I mean, the first time that women ever headlined WrestleMania, and here we are a year later. So much has changed. But I'm wondering, since we haven't talked officially since then, what was the best thing to happen that night? Like, when you're going to be old and gray, sitting around with your grandchildren, when you think back to that night, that historic night, and how far you came, is there a moment, an exchange, a conversation you had afterwards that will always remain with you?
I remember looking out in the crowd and seeing my dad in the front row and my brother, and so I actually there's 2 things. So my brother is the reason that I got into wrestling in the first place. He was the one who watched it. He's the one who discovered that they were opening a wrestling school in Ireland, and that's the reason that I went down. And I remember just before the match, just before the bell rang, I looked over at him. He winked at me, and I was like, okay, this is on. And it was just. It just hit me right in the feels. And then afterwards, getting to hug my dad afterwards, and because before WrestleMania happened, I had found out that he'd been diagnosed with lung cancer, and one, I didn't think that he was going to make it to Mania, and to make it over there, and 2, we didn't think that it was curable. Good news is that it's completely gone.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, there's been some. He went on some experimental medication, and it's been completely. It's completely gone. So that was, yeah. So lots of happy moments in the last year. The other thing was coming back and seeing Seth Rollins, and getting to give him a big hug. And then also seeing the person who trained me, Finn Balor, had wrestled right before I did too, and so just everybody who meant so much to me, being right there, and being able to share that with them.
That's amazing. And first and foremost, I want to say I'm delighted to hear about your father. I know how scary that can be. So I'm very happy to hear that he's okay. And that's tremendous news. You just mentioned Seth, and almost on cue, I don't know if you saw, I believe he popped into the comments here.
Oh.
Your husband popped in. So he's trying to steal some of your shine. Could you tell us, I don't mean to break the fourth wall here, but where did this love affair come from? I think a lot of people were, their minds were blown, like, wow, Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, they're getting married. Is this real? Is this not? Could you tell us the story, the love story here between you two?
So we've been friends for years and years, and just immediately, the first conversation that I ever had with him, we just hit it off. I think I ended up just telling him my life story, and that was it. We were just friends, and there was never really anything. but then we both kind of got single at the same time, and then it was like, wait, well, why not? And yeah, it's been the best. It's been the best, and especially now when you're in isolation with somebody, you want them to be your best friend. So it's been amazing.
And to travel the world and to go through the same thing, a lot of people don't understand what you guys go through. I would imagine that has been a tremendous experience as well, right?
Yeah, because you always have somebody, because this industry is it's so tough, and it's so hard to understand if you're not in it. And I think we were both opposed to being with anybody in this industry, but it really has been incredible to be able to share those highs and of course those lows with somebody who understands it. And sometimes when you're not able to clear through the weeds, somebody who's been there and knows it so well, and they can, you know, say something, and you can just see things differently. It's pretty great.
Now, I've asked a lot of fighters about this, and I'm curious what your perspective is. You know, when you win the belt, when you're on top, it's a lot different when you're the challenger, right? When you're the hunted, it's different than when you're the hunter, so to speak. For you this past year, I mean, you can make the argument that you were on top before WrestleMania of last year and whatnot, but to have this, you know, sustained growth and to be on top since last year's WrestleMania, to be the champion, all that stuff, how is it different for you? Like, is there a pressure that comes with that? Is it at times immense, heavy? Is the head that wears the crown, is the famous saying? Like, do you feel different when you're the hunted as opposed to the hunter? What's that pressure like?
Yeah, it is. It is a whole different pressure, because where do you go after you've main evented WrestleMania, and now your job is, you're not the underdog. And I spent my whole career being the underdog, the one who was almost there but never really could win the big one. And now I've been winning all the big ones. But then you also have to prove that it's not a flash in the pan, that I can carry this, that I can make people care no matter who the opponent is. And that is a completely different pressure. A pressure you don't feel when you're going for it. And it is one of those things that you're a hero in the chase and you're a villain in the victory a lot of the times, because everybody wants to root for you when you're going for it. And then sometimes when you get it, and then you get a lot of it, then it's like, oh, okay, she's had enough of that. Let's give it on to somebody else. So you have to constantly be shifting and changing. Like, okay, how can I get people to care? Why is this match different? Why is this opponent different? How can I make this more engaging than the last story? And it's all just about adaptation, really.
We're speaking to Becky Lynch, the Raw Women's Champion, who will be defending her title next Saturday or Sunday at WrestleMania 36, 2 nights, huge deal. Rob Gronkowski is the host of the whole shebang. And by the way,
Yes,
WrestleMania 35 that you headlined, that we were just talking about, is going to air on ESPN next Sunday. WrestleMania 32, which you were a part of, is airing this Sunday on ESPN. So that's really cool to see ESPN and WWE coming together. Last year, you went up against Ronda Rousey, of course. Now you're up against her protege, if you will, Shayna Baszler. Honestly now, who's the better pro wrestler, Shayna or Ronda? Who took to it better in your opinion?
But isn't it interesting that you said her protege, right? Because wasn't Shayna in MMA long before Ronda came along, right? But then, so this is something I can relate to with Shayna. So Shayna was in MMA long before Ronda came along, but then Ronda came in and got all the glory. And then Shayna was on the independents, busting her ass. She made it to NXT. She was the longest combined reigning NXT women's champion. But then Ronda came in and got the main event of WrestleMania. I can relate to being in somebody's shadow and wanting to bust through and wanting to prove something to yourself and to everybody. And I feel like that's why Shayna is going to be so dangerous against me. I feel like she's looking to prove something to herself and to everybody, like I did. I've been in that shadow and I busted through, and it worked out really well for me. So I think she's going to be trying to do the exact same thing, but she picked the wrong champ to do that on.
I'd be remiss if I don't ask you about another famous Irish athlete, Conor McGregor. You predicted his victory almost, like to the round and the minute when I asked you about it right before the fight. Did you see his fight against Donald Cerrone? And if so, what did you think about it?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I thought it was, I was actually around, I think I was around, I said second round.
Yes.
Just because I thought that he would take more of his time, but no, he didn't need it. It was fantastic. It was great to see. Just being back on the kingdom, you know.
He's been doing a lot of great things and getting the word out back home in Ireland. Have you seen some of the messages that he's put out, and if so, what do you think of it?
I have, yeah, and it's awesome to see. You know, I think when we have this platform, that it's important to get people to band together and come together to find the solution for this problem. I think that when we're all united in this, I think that's been one of the coolest things about this. We see people's ability to work together, not just on a local scale or a national scale, but on a global scale. That we're not going to find the solution for this unless we all work together. And then, of course, it's going to be just as important coming out of that we all work together and we all get people who have gone into hardships through this because of this, that we all work together to support them and to support our local businesses and help people get up off their feet.
Yesterday, news broke that Roman Reigns won't be a part of WrestleMania. I'm wondering, did you have any concerns about taking part given everything that's going on?
So I didn't have I didn't have any concerns for myself. I think we've set up a very hygienic system and really limited the amount of people that are there. I think the only thing that I'm very conscientious of is now that we're back, and when we come back, that we just isolate ourselves for a couple of weeks, make sure that we don't have any symptoms before we go out in the world again.
Okay, so and when you are there at the Performance Center, are there a ton of people in the back? Like, what is the scene like?
So it's just they're staggering everything.
Okay.
If you don't have a reason to be there, then get the hell out of there. You're not there. If you have a match, if you have a segment, then you're there with a minimal amount of crew to shoot it. And then, of course, when you come in, you're tested for, your temperature's taken and questionnaires filled out, and the doctors are there to meet you as soon as you walk in the building.
And all your family, friends, loved ones, everyone's doing okay?
Yeah, everybody's great. Everybody's great. It's one of those things where, because I've been so busy for the last year, I haven't had time to catch up with people. But now everybody's at home, so I've been able to FaceTime back home to the friends, the people that I haven't gotten to talk to in a long time. And because sometimes when you're on the go all the time, you start to feel that guilt, like, oh, I haven't made enough time for this person, that person, whatever, because at the end of the day, and I think all of this that's going on proves it, is that the most important thing is the people that you have in your life and the relationships that you have. Things don't really matter as long as we have the basics. So being able to make time for people in that way has just been great.
I'll only keep you around for a couple more minutes. Thank you so much for doing this, Becky. Could I ask you, everyone loves to talk about their favorite WrestleMania moments, excluding your own as a fan, as a viewer, whatever. Do you have a favorite moment, match, event that comes to mind?
Oh, well, it might be when Seth Rollins won the Universal title and beat Brock Lesnar. Also, when Daniel Bryan won at WrestleMania 30, I think that was just such an amazing feel-good moment.
What about like when you were a little kid back in the day?
Oh, when I was a little kid, I mean, gosh, one of my favorite matches, WrestleMania matches of all time. One of my favorite matches of all time, I think, is Owen Hart versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 10.
Yes.
Incredible match.
Yes, brother versus brother at Madison Square Garden. That was incredible.
Yeah. It was, and it was an inspiration for many of my matches going forward from that.
What's the prediction? How are you beating Shayna? What are you gonna? She bit you, Becky. She bit you, for God's sakes. That's illegal in MMA.
It is illegal in MMA. It's illegal in pro wrestling too, would you believe? My prediction is I beat her. My prediction is that she underestimates me. Like I said, I'm not underestimating her, but she's underestimating me. The thing is she calls herself the submission magician. She doesn't call herself that for no reason. So I think I'm gonna have to. Look, with all of these things, this has been the theme of the night, adaptation. I'm going to have to adapt and overcome. If I'm not able to lock in that armbar, what am I going to do? What other moves do I have in my arsenal? How am I going to hit her? Because she is strong. She is tough. I don't think she's going to stay down for nothing. She's going to constantly keep coming back and keep trying to fight me, keep trying to bite me if need be. But it's all going to be about adaptation and how I overcome. Story of my career, really.
Absolutely, and that's why people love you. Last thing, I've just been asking a lot of, you guys are role models to a lot of people, and a lot of people are going through tough times. They're at home, they're lonely, they're bored. Any words of wisdom, how to stay positive, things that people can do, anything that's helping you that you want to share with the people?
Yeah, I think because it's a scary time, but I think the thing is that it's not going to last, and we will get through this, and we'll get through it stronger than ever. And we haven't been through anything like this, but the fact is that the whole world is working together to try and solve this problem, and that we will if we can continue to do that, then God, anything's possible. Maybe the world is going to look like an even better place when we get out of this. I think we just have to stay hopeful, keep the faith, and concentrate on the good things that we have. If we have the people that we care about, the people that we love, if we can take time to do the things that we were never able to do before because we were so busy in the hustle and the grind, and now we can sit back and relax and be with just ourselves. And maybe we can start getting a little bit fitter if we weren't fitter before. We can start cooking if we didn't cook for ourselves before. We can learn new skills. There's so many things on YouTube. You don't have to go on TikTok. We can watch documentaries. There's so many things on Netflix. And you can watch WrestleMania, and you can see me retain the Raw Women's Championship. Here it is. Here it is. We can see that.
Well done. That was a tremendous plug. Well done, Becky. Becky, you're a legend. Thank you so much. My best to you and your family. Good luck at WrestleMania next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend, April 4th, April 5th. It's too big for just one night.